everybody. Well, this is Kathy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be using some goodies from Pink Fresh Studios. I showed in a haul a couple of videos ago, this is part of a set in which they have stencils, stamp, and dies, and it's all in one type of thing. This is called Vines and Roses, and in the back it kind of gives you an idea of what colors to use. I'm going to zoom out. I zoomed out a little bit so you could see it. There's about 6 stencils. I'm going to be using this heavyweight cardstock. I believe it's from Michaels, 110 pounds. And I'm also going to be using my Misty, my large Misty. This is a very large stamp set. I have my cardstock and I'm trying to put it in my Misty. It hangs out a little bit, so I'm going to cut about 2.5 inches off the end of it in order for it to fit into my large Misty nice and snug. So I'm going to cut that, trying to fiddle with the size, but I ended up um, taking off 2.5 inches, which is more or less what it was. And that fits perfectly in there. So now I'm going to bring out the stamp set. As you can see, it is big. It's bigger than my hand. It's bigger than a regular 4x6 stamp set that I'm used to. And that's going to go into my Misty. This is the first time I'm using it. This has like leaves, it has roses, literally vines and roses. So, and since it's my first time using it, I'm gonna have to, it is not conditioned, which means that the first stamp is always, the first inking and stamping of it is always going to be a little bit rough. You can either rub your hands over it or maybe some Versamark ink pad, which is an embossing ink pad. You can also stamp that as well to prime it, but I'm going to be using my Simon Says Stamp Intense black ink, and I'm going to stamp this a few times because I know that it's the first time that I'm using that. So I just sped this part up a little bit because I know it's going to take a little bit longer. I'm trying to get some nice crisp images, and I ended up stamping this about 3 times. So I think this stamp set and this whole stamp die and stencil set is so versatile. You can literally just make a whole background, like two, if you stamp 2 of these, you could make 2 backgrounds and just color them in. If you didn't die cut them out, you can make a whole card front out of it. Um, so now I'm going to get out my stencils, and the stencils there's like 6 of them, so it may seem overwhelming, but it was rather easy. You just start off with different colors. I'm going to be using my Altenew Fresh Dye inks, and line up the leaves for my first one. And I'm going to tape that down so it doesn't move. And these have actual, before I say that, I'm using my Altenew Fresh Moss there, as you can see. But these actually, what I was going to say is they have these little embossed notches where you can place the edge of your paper. I didn't realize it until I was probably like 3 stencils in, or the second stencil in. But yeah, it's really cool because you have um, these little notches, and initially I was gonna cut out the cardstock to the same size as the stencils, but then I figured it's not gonna fit into my Misty anyway. So the notches are very handy, and if you can't line it up, or you're not sure if you didn't line it up properly, you can line up those notches that are at the top and at the bottom. If you want to line up the bottom of the cardstock, you could use either ones, and it'll, line it up perfectly. So anyway, I went in there. This is now when I think I realize, if you go there, you go at an angle. If you're able to catch it, it has like a little L, I guess, that you can put the corner of your cardstock or the edge of your cardstock in. So I'm trying to decide what color I'm going to use next, or where the leaves, if it was under the first leaf or the second leaf. Um, and then I'm going for my second color. So the second color there, I think, is a swamp green from Altenew. And like I said, it seems a bit overwhelming because there's so many stencils, but it's not. Plus, I mean, I enjoy doing this and just experimenting. Um, but you can go boom, you're done with the, once you do this layer, then you go on to the next one, which will get into the flowers. So Altenew has great inks that go together, so that's what I chose in this set. And then on the side, you see me wiping off the stencil with alcohol, which is awesome. It cleans up quickly. But Altenew has like set of three stamps that go together, so you don't even have to like don't even have to figure out what colors will go with what. But you could essentially also do if you even had just one stamp, one ink pad, you can just do one lighter, use a soft hand, and do the second one. If you need to go darker, just go second two times over it, and that's darker for you, and that's your shading color. Um, I could have done that as well. I'm going to keep trying because I'm intrigued. I know you're going to see in a little bit that I couldn't get the lining up quite right or the colors. And I was like, oh no, it's gonna come out bad, but it still doesn't come out bad. After you cut it, it still comes out okay. I'm probably the only one that notices the mistake. But see, right here is where I kind of was like, oh no, this is too dark, and I didn't realize the color. This is my first time using these dye inks as well. So now, when you're placing this stencil, it creates the accent pieces to the roses, and this is where um, it wasn't lined up too good because it kind of I could see that it was a little bit off, and that's another accent piece. And see that that's when I realized, oh, my rose is a little too dark. I don't know what kind of accent, but I did end up finding, believe it or not, a color that went with it to make it darker. But like I said, you could start off with the same color, just one time, and then if you go again, that's your darker color, and you didn't have to use too much. So now I'm going to cut it off, cut these out with my coordinating dies, and as you can see, it doesn't fit my Anna Griffin Empress machine. The plates are too short. So initially I run the first side through it and then I run the second side and turn it around. And it cuts each itty bitty piece. It cuts so many details, which I love it. So I'm going to put that back. I'm now going to get my panel, my base panel. I'm done with those flowers. And what I'm using is an Altenew Better Press that is called Burlap, which I think is awesome. It seems to be very popular. So I'm using like an ivory or a dove type of a panel. I think I went with ivory. I know there was a gray one as well that I had there, but I went with the ivory. And I'm going to use my Better Press to run this. This has like a little magnetic plate that the Better Press you can put there for an A2 size card, and then you tape your cotton panel to the top part and just tape the corners ever so slightly. And the little magnetic, it's a little magnetic spring that goes on top where it just hovers over the Better Press. And as soon as you're ready, you just put it into your die cut machine, and that's when it presses down into the paper or into the press, the plate. And when it comes out this awesome embossing, looks embossed. And then you're done. I just take the die off, and it's like a quick A. I wanted initially, you can also color it and do like a print, but I wanted just to have the effect of the embossing in there and the pressing into the cardstock. So now I have some panels, and I use this, I believe this cardstock is from Concord and Ninth. It's a nice pretty hunter green. And I got my card base, and I'm using, card base is cut to 4¼ by 11, and I'm scoring that in half. And I'm going to fold it over, and I'm trying to make sure that it's aligned. Some of these I didn't cut very well, so then I'm just creasing that and just pressing down on it so I can get it nice and aligned. And I noticed that it's a little bit wonky. So I'm getting my trimmer and just trimming off the little edges so it looks nice and perfect. Okay. So now I'm holding my card base with this magnet just to hold it as I start to assemble my card. I'm going to go for the card base, the hunter green type, and I have a little border, I cut an edge. I like to have a little border all around. I think it's really elegant. And then I have my burlap piece and I cut that a little bit even more so I can have a green border around it. I'm going to tape first my hunter green down. Um, and of course, I run out of tape. I don't know about you, but I hate those tapes that kind of slip off. And when I try to put it back, it doesn't work, it slips out. So I have another one. Thank goodness for backups and that um, will get taped onto my panel. So now I'm going to put my burlap on. I'm going to pop it up a little bit. So I'm going to get some foam tape, not too high. I don't even know if I have a really high foam tape, but I'm going to put this relatively flat. I think I got it off of Amazon, a set of two. I don't know if I'm going to buy it again, but it did what it needed to do. And the price wasn't too bad. So as I'm putting the foam tape, I realize why did I put so much tape? I could have just put four strips across. Oh, then I just realized it afterwards. So, and I was ready to stick this down when all of a sudden I told myself, oh, wait, I gotta kind of dry fit everything to make sure beforehand. So now I have all my flowers, and initially I'm trying to figure out where everything is going to go. Look at that one that's draping. That one is so pretty. I don't think I end up using that one, but I should have. That one's nice. And you could literally just do I am not good at flower arranging. Um, I, I'm, I'm horrible. I just kind of go by my eye and see what looks good. Um, So you could literally just take all of these flowers and put it all on your panel and just cover a whole panel with these because there were so many and just cut the edges off just to cut the hanging fruit, so to speak, off of those edges of the panel, and it would fill up your whole paper and that could be your background. However, since this had burlap, I wanted the burlap to kind of see and show the texture. I didn't want to hide the burlap and keep it hidden behind the flowers, but you could have done that. And I also, after I was putting all these flowers, realized, oh wait, I have to put a sentiment. I hope I have enough space. So I decided to, since I can't really get my arrangement figured out, to go for my sentiment and see which sentiment I was going to use and make sure too that I had enough space. So I ended up going like that. May your day be beautiful as you are. And then I'm going to I put that aside and look how many flowers you have left. So I'm going to get out my mini Misty. I'm going to get that panel that I had of the same color as the other base, and I'm going to emboss this sentiment. So I'm going to get out my Versamark ink, but first if I'm going to emboss, I got to put my powder tool, my anti-static powder tool, and I'm going to spread that all throughout the bottom part of this card so that the embossing powder doesn't stick to anywhere else other than the stamping. So I got my Versamark ink, and I want to press that down and get that stamped nicely. I think I stamped this a couple times because I'm not getting too good of a ink that comes out like that good. And then I still had like a little bit, something was missing in the center, so I kind of just pressed in the center and that came out better. I'm going to clean that out with my baby wipe and put away my sentiment and get my embossing powder out and my scratch piece of paper as well. So I'm going to be using Brutus Monroe Gilded. It's like a gold embossing powder, which I love, which is really nice if you haven't tried it. Um, and if you haven't tried embossing at all, it's the best. So you just get that, it's like a sticky ink. It's not even sticky, but it's like a clear ink called Versamark, and then you stamp whatever you want to stamp on it, and then this powder sticks to it initially, but it doesn't melt just yet until you get a heating tool. So as soon as you get the heating tool to the embossing powder, it starts melting into the ink, and it looks awesome. It looks professional. That's my favorite part, just watching that still, how it melts. You don't want to heat it too much because you don't want your paper to melt. So just make sure that your tool is really hot, and then you know, then you go for the ink. So now I'm going to get my sentiment, my coordinating die. So the good thing about this little die set is that the magnet comes with and built in behind that comes with it. So it sticks all of your dies on there so it doesn't fall out. In case you don't have a stamp set or stamp container that big, you can use that right there and you don't have to worry about it. So now I'm going to run my, first I'm going to wipe off this powder. I just use a little baby wipe that's still damp and get the powder out. Now I'm using the coordinating die. I realized when I was getting this that I was afraid that, see how there's a little line goes right through it? I was afraid that it's going to cut the B and the L, and then I realized, oh wait, there's an opening there. So it's not going to cut it out. So I don't know if you don't know what I'm talking about. It ends up cutting perfectly all around the sentiment, even in between, which I love, which it looks so nice and dainty. Um, so I cut, in addition to cutting out my sentiment, I cut the back part without embossing, without anything stamped on. I cut it out about three more times and I put it in the back. I noticed some other people are doing that as well, and it just gives it a nice support. And if you don't have the small little foam tapes, you don't have to sit there putting foam tape in the back of it in case you want to pop it up. So I ended up making that thick, and it looks like this thick chipboard pretty much of a sentiment. And then I put it in glue. I glued all those together and then just flattened it out with my glass block there. So now I'm going back to my arranging, and after everything, I decided to end up going. I could have just even gone with one of them, to be honest, because it was such a simple little card, but I ended up going with two. Now it's ready. I'm ready to peel out the foam tape from the back and call it, finally call it and just stick it to the base. And I really love that burlap. I'm going to do more stuff with that burlap background. So anyway, I ended up going definitely putting down that bottom right one, and then I'm still trying to fiddle in with that top one there. And as you can see, there is so much left over. And I was thinking afterwards when I was finished, man, I could have put like something shiny on the, instead of the, what you can do even when you're talking about those little accent pieces, you could probably, when you're ready to put the accent pieces of those stencils, you could probably use something glittery instead of a colored accent, or you could go over it with something colorful and glittery. I'll try that next time so you guys know what I'm talking about. So I finally um, put them down and stick them down, finally go with it, and end up going, like I said, with just two little sets, but you have plenty left over to do more cards and even leaves and stuff. So now, of course, I need some bling, and I have this leftover, this free gift that I got from Paper Picket Fence Studios, I think it is. And then I am getting confused with Picket Fence and Paper and Pink Fresh. But this one definitely, the sequins are from Picket Fence Studios. They gave as a free gift. And I ended up picking, I'm not good, guys, with sequins either. I'm still trying to get that. But I know it's an odd number. But my placement sometimes is just is definitely odd also. So I know I've been getting a little bit better. I know I have to tuck some underneath like the sentiment, which I like, and then use like three or four, I mean three or five, like an odd number of items. But I ended up, I think, going with three on this one, yes. So I'm going to get my glue out and I'm going to stick that down. Remember to like and subscribe if you want to see more videos. I'm going to be sharing, see more cards. I finally stick it all down. I'm going to put my stamp in the back of the card, and then I'm going to try and find an envelope to go with this. Maybe a hunter green envelope so it matches the card, but I think it all in all it came out nice. and looks a little bit elegant. And you'll see the details up close at the end of the card. Thanks again for watching, everybody. Have a great day.